Okay, Itamek Skanatani, good morning. It is August 3rd, 2017 in the lunar cycle Okanokisto Tsitsitspi. And when I woke up this morning, I had some coffee and stuff, sat around and messaged back and forth on the internet and what have you. But as soon as I got out of the house, my first inclination was to come back to these coulees, to the Diamond City area, and check out the snake who I dropped off last night. I strongly suspected that she would have moved away, but she was acting so strangely when I dropped her off that I didn't know. Like she was very defensive when I first picked her up, but then when I came to drop her off, her behavior changed dramatically. I watched the full bucket cam reel, and there was nothing in the bucket cam to indicate that she was injured in the bucket cam on the drive or anything like that. She was mostly alert on the drive, held her head up. It looked like she might have been even trying to sleuth out the way to get out of the bucket. But as soon as she got here and I opened up the bucket, I recognized by the way she was holding her head alone that something might be wrong. And then when I pulled her out of the bucket and had her on the ground here, she was very, like, too relaxed. Hey, I could run my hook down her back and it would elicit very little response, like not the typical rattlesnake response. So all this kind of provoked me to want to come out here this morning and check on her, and unfortunately she's still here. She's not passed away, but something's wrong. Here she is, and I've been watching her for a few minutes, and she's not right. She's acting like she doesn't know what she's doing. She's not having proper defense mechanisms. Her body doesn't look strong. On occasion, she's opened her mouth in this weird way. On other occasions, in the last 10 minutes, she's like seemed to think that something was out to get her from another flank, and she looked that way like she's having delusions or hallucinations or something. So I'm pretty worried about her at this point. Like, one of my initial thoughts was that by the way she was acting last night was I just need to leave her alone. Maybe she was in shock. Maybe she'd been jostled around in the bucket on our drive over, because I do go along a gravel road to get here. But when I looked at the bucket cam, the full footage of it, she remained pretty alert during the drive over, and even seemed to be looking for maybe a way out of the bucket. But as soon as I opened the bucket, I could see from the way she was holding her head, actually, it was kind of tilted a little bit in a way that I only see usually with injured snakes, hey? But I could see that something was wrong. That's why I made the comment on last night's video that she's acting lethargic in the bucket. And I pulled her out, and on the ground, like right now, she's kind of twitching. She doesn't know what's going on. Her head is kind of twitching around like something's after her. And she's putting her head in weird positions like this where she shouldn't be. Like, this is abnormal. So I think she's in kind of a slow progression toward death, unfortunately. I think that's what's happening here. Yeah, she seems to be like not doing well. And you know, at first I thought it might have been just the stress of the ride, or it might have been that she was kind of shocking out. Like, sometimes animals do shock out on me, little birds and such, if somebody brings them to me to try to help them. A lot of times before I can even give them kind of first aid, even before considering going to a wildlife rehabilitation center or something, a lot of times they shock out and die. Even large animals like deer, you know, you catch them as humans, they're in such fright they shock out and die. So I thought maybe that's what was going on with the snake, but leaving her overnight like I did should have been enough for her to come around from the shock. Or she would have succumbed to it, I would have think. So I think something else is going on. I don't know if maybe, because the house where I picked them up last night, where I picked her up, there was a lot of, well, there were several children riding around on motocross bikes, dirt bikes, motorized dirt bikes. And she was out in an exposed area when I picked her up, so maybe one of the kids accidentally clipped her on the bike, or maybe didn't even notice that they did. She may have some internal injuries going on here. I don't really see anything significant for scale damage on the outside, so there's no evidence externally of an injury, but I bet something bad is going on inside, because she's not acting like a healthy snake at all. So yeah, I'm not sure what to think. I might pull her out of this because she's very exposed here. I'm thinking I might pull her out of the sun for the day. It's going to get hot, and I don't know. I think things are on the edge here, whether she's going to live or die. Alright, so I've got some bad news. Sunset Rattlesnake didn't make it. I put her in a container in my garage where it's not too hot, not too cool for a snake, and left her with some water, and I went to work for a few hours building a fence. Came back late afternoon and she was passed away. Not sure what's wrong with her, but she was obviously in some kind of throes of death while I was away. Her mouth is open. One of her fangs is kind of bent in half. She's got some blood on her mouth, and she's left spots of blood on her scales down her body here and there. So obviously she was, rolling her mouth over her back, and I can only imagine. I'm glad I didn't leave the camera there. And obviously this little film clip is going to be very detailed, so if you don't want to see it, don't look. But I am interested to know what was the cause of her death. I have two things in mind. Either a trauma, obviously, like maybe one of the motorbikes on the acreage where I picked her up had bumped her and just didn't leave any external sign, in which case I'll find muscular bruising, broken ribs, maybe some internal bleeding and this kind of thing inside. If on the other hand, another possibility that comes to mind for me is that it could be food based, like maybe she didn't eat something that was good. Maybe she ate a poisoned ground squirrel, aka gopher, right? I don't know how the poisons that they use on the gophers here, that some of the farms use, might impact a rattlesnake, but I imagine it could probably kill a rattlesnake if it can kill a gopher. Snakes are not, super resistant creatures, but I do see like a little hint of potential scale damage here and there. Nothing much, but I'll show you. Like look at right here on the back here. There just seems to be a little bit of scale damage. Something might have rolled over her there, Very, very possible. I'm betting on trauma. And I wouldn't doubt if it's sourced right there. But I'm gonna open her up. I'm gonna do an autopsy post-mortem. Really grassroots style, hey? Box cutter scalpel. My surgical scissors. But that's what I've got. So I'm gonna open her up, and it's not if there's something toxic that would require toxicology or something, if it's not something obvious, then I'm not going to come up with a solution to what's happened to her, but it's worth a look. So I'm going to cut her from the cloaca down her belly. Does have a full belly. She's got some internal bleeding for sure. Alright, so right off the bat here, we've got quite a bit of hemorrhaging. Hopefully you can see that. Right? It's a lot of hemorrhaging there. This is almost up to, like, this is the lungs area really. I think it starts going into stomach here. Okay, this might even be her liver here. Well, we'll get into stomach, might be right here. But yeah, she's definitely got hemorrhaging, hey? So, and I don't know if it's just that she was bleeding on inside of her belly, or whether she has the muscular damage. So we're going to look at that next. I'm going to try to probably take her skin off. Maybe it's not typically the way I take a skin off, but I'm going to start at the tail and I'll just strip it off. Yeah, she is actually a he. Genitals are telling me. And I kind of had a suspicion by color, but wasn't sure. Last night when it was dark, he looked for sure like a she, but this morning when I returned, maybe not as much. Alright, so I've removed the skin and I'm starting to look at what's going on behind this area of internal bleeding. You know, what's going on in here. And actually I'm not seeing, well, okay, right here, if you can see that, hopefully, right here, which this area, which corresponds directly with where the internal bleeding is, there is a break in the flesh. There's broken bones. Yeah, there's broken ribs. Yeah, so this was a trauma, hey? Something shot over the snake, maybe just once. Quickly, or didn't weigh that much, but yeah, I think this is a trauma with internal bleeding. I don't think it has to do with whatever's inside this big stomach of hers, although that's interesting too. But yeah, it looks like internal bleeding consistent with trauma. I did, for people's interest perhaps, remove the skin from the head so that you can see what the venom sacs, on either side here look like. Snake's venom sacs gives it that diamond shaped, triangular shaped head. And yeah, I think that's almost all we can say for her, or him, sorry. The only other thing of interest would be cutting open that stomach, but I don't know if it needs to be done. It looks pretty clearly like a trauma to me with the back broken the way it is, so I think we got our solution. I think that's about as far as we need to go. So yeah, I'm happy now. I mean, not happy, but I know I have a better beat on what occurred, and it's not surprising it happened. So another victim of trauma. That I believe was 2 in a row, like 2 back-to-back days with trauma kill rattlesnakes, but happens.